Hey, welcome. If you're not sitting, go ahead and take a seat. Thank you for clicking this button on YouTube and checking out yet another Catching Up with Carter podcast. And tonight I have yet another exciting interview with somebody that does something that I had no idea about. Maybe I'm just living under a rock. But so accidentally, I was on YouTube, something to do with the babies, probably Diana and Roma, because they love these two Ukrainian kids. Anyway, on there, something pops up about medieval MMA. Yes, like MMA fighting with actual suits of armor on, real axes, real steel, real swords, real hitting. Like, this is for real. I'm like, what? I've never even heard of this. I mean, of course, I've been to medieval times out there near Chicago, and I'm sure other people have too, and they put on a great show, but that's like a show. This is for real. So, of course, I reached out to a guy. His name's Chris Sanner. He's does medieval MMA, or otherwise known as armored combat, out in Pittsburgh. And that's who we talked to tonight. So I'm really looking forward to talking to him. Okay, I'm really excited about this topic and to find out what it takes to get into this, how he got into it, all that fun stuff. So first, what we're going to do is we're going to play into a song like I do almost every single show. And this time it's going to be Led Zeppelin with the Immigrant Song. Check out the lyrics, listen closely. It's medieval related. We'll be right back with armored combat medieval MMA fighter Chris Sanner, hailing from Pittsburgh. Talk to you soon. All right, welcome back, everybody, and I'm really excited to welcome Chris Sanner, hailing from Pittsburgh. I'm sorry, go Steelers. Okay, I'm a Packer fan, but Chris is involved in a sport that, as you heard a minute ago when I mentioned it, something that I stumbled across on YouTube, and it's super interesting because almost everybody loves MMA, and then I saw armored combat, or medieval MMA as some people call it. And it's super interesting. And I've been watching his videos on Facebook the last couple days. He's pretty darn good. How did you get started into this sport?
I think this was 2018 or something like that. I around there. It was before COVID. It was probably a short time before COVID. I saw a show on the History Channel called Night Fight. And
Okay.
have you ever heard of that?
No, but I'm gonna look it up though.
Okay. So basically, it's this sport, except it was shown on, the History Channel. And it kind of looked like, I don't know, a human demolition derby. And I was like, oh my God.
Sign me up.
My entire life.
Right.
I couldn't believe that, like, I had never seen this before. I was like, this is so cool.
So how did you get involved in it then? Like like I saw when I looked it up, I saw, what is it called? M1 is what the big one is over in Europe.
Yeah, there's that. Yep.
And it seems like it's really huge in Europe, but you saw it and you heard about that, but how did you get involved, I guess, over here?
So I after I saw that show, I looked on, I just went to Facebook and did a search for, Pittsburgh Armored Combat, and it turned out that there was some people who do this in Pittsburgh. And I was like, sweet, this is so cool. So I sent them their Facebook page a message, and I didn't hear back for like a year.
Wow.
It was like the slowest reply in history. It was like randomly one day. I was driving from work, and it was like, oh, yeah, we do armored combat. And I was like, wow, it's been 365 days. But
right.
So they messaged me back, and the guy who was running it, his name is John Hall. And he's a friend of mine. He is now. I didn't know him at the time, but he introduced me to the sport, and he kind of showed me the ropes and showed me the basics, and helped me along.
So how long did you practice doing it or whatever before you actually had a match?
Like a week. So
wow.
So I met John in, like, I forget. I think it was like July or something, and they always tell you when you get into this particular sport, they tell you to wait to buy any armor or weapons until you've hung around for a little while to make sure you like it, because they can get kind of pricey. But I knew just from seeing it, I knew it was something I wanted to do. I was like, I'm a stubborn person. I was like, this is what I want to do. And it so happened that somebody was selling a used armor set on Facebook that just happened to fit me. So like a week or two later, I drove down and bought it, and I think it was like within 2 or 3 weeks of meeting John, I was at my first event. And that went about as well as you would imagine. It was it was called a chapter match, but it was like an exhibition type of thing. And I got rocked pretty bad. I got whooped all afternoon.
Okay, to help explain to others and myself too, it's full on then. I mean, you're fully hitting him. No quarter hit. You're hitting him as hard as you can with whatever you have.
If you're doing if you're doing an exhibition at a Ren fair or something, maybe you're not trying to murder anybody. But if you're at a tournament, then yeah, it's you're that's it. Pedal to the metal. Keep your head on a swivel, that kind of thing.
So I'm guessing the first fight that you had, or first match you had, it might take you a second to realize it was like real almost, I guess, or maybe not. Maybe you're just like, I'm ready, or I'm running in.
So my first time I stepped in the list, which is what we call our ring. And it was like, I wasn't prepared for how ferocious they were, how fast it was going to be, how hard. It's like being dunked in ice water. And I remember getting hit with a battle axe, and so the weapons are real. They're steel weapons, swung with full force by a grown man, who might weigh 300 pounds. The guy might be 6'6", 300 pounds, 360 pounds. There's in the melee, the team-based stuff, there's no weight limit. So the guy just totally clocked me, and I just got beat up all afternoon. That's pretty much how my first experience went. And thankfully, though, I'm a quick learner, and I was able to take a lot away from that, and I started adjusting pretty quickly.
Now, did you do any type of fighting before this medieval type stuff? Were you into MMA or Muay Thai or anything before that too?
So when I was younger, I did jiu-jitsu and a little bit of boxing and some other things like that. Nothing real heavy. It wasn't anything super deep. Like, I wasn't like an MMA fighter or anything. But I did train in some different things when I was younger. But it had been like, probably 10 or 15 years before now. So it's been a minute.
There's like no limit then on anything you can get. Like, what are some of the weapons you can get and use in battle then?
So the weapons have weight limits, weight minimums, weight limits, size requirements, size maximums, things like that. So you can't like walk in there with, I don't know, a 50-pound sledgehammer. There are limits on that.
Well, that's good.
But within the rules though, you'll be using one-handed or two-handed swords, falchions, which is kind of like a heavier sword. You could use a two-handed battle axe, a one-handed axe, maces, which is basically just a stick with a metal ball on the end. And of course, one of the things that I like to do is shield punch. So, you can have basically a wooden shield on your arm that you can punch somebody with it. And you can generate quite a bit of force. But so you'll use that. You'll use throws, tactics. So if you were doing like a team-based fight, there are tactics involved. Not quite to the depth of like a football play, but you would still have, okay, I'm gonna try and take this guy and turn him so you can get some free shots on him, that kind of thing.
I see. That makes sense. Now, as far as like how you get involved in the weight class and all that, like how do they grade you, I guess, on the fight then? Because do you have to pin somebody, or does it go off a certain number of hits, or how does that work?
So there's different categories. You have the team-based melee, which is, 2 or 3 or 5-on-5, whatever it happens to be. And then you have the one-on-one stuff, which is becoming more and more and more popular pretty much by the month. So the one-on-one stuff is divided into categories. So you'll have dueling, which is a point-based contest against somebody else using a particular weapon, like a sword or a long sword, a pole arm, whatever it happens to be. Those are like more skill-based, you could say, because a lot of them are counted by the number of hits you strike on your opponent, which is similar to like fencing. And then you have something that people call pro fighting or night fighting, and that is more similar to MMA, in this sport. So that is scored usually on a 10-point system, similar to MMA. You do punching, kicking, throws. Sometimes you're allowed to ground strike, but generally there's no joint locks. So you're not allowed to take somebody down and put him in an arm bar or, a chokehold or something like that.
What is your goal with it now? Is this still just like a hobby, something fun do you do? Or is this something that you plan on? I mean, what level what is the next step? Is this a pro level also that pays out, I'm guessing? I don't know. I'm sorry to sound dumb.
That's okay. The sport is so young. There isn't really the infrastructure to make it. It's kind of something you do if you really like it, and that's kind of similar to MMA. If you're not a professional UFC fighter, your income is going to pretty much be nothing. I mean, you're not going to get rich unless you're a pro. The top 1% of the 1%. Everybody else, you're just going to get bruised up and have fun. And that's kind of what I do with this is, I've always liked fighting, the actual act of wrestling or, boxing and things like I've always actually liked the physical contest with another person and all the tactics and skills and things like that go in it. And, I've always enjoyed that. I always liked looking at somebody and trying to find their weakness and then exploiting that. And vice versa, knowing what I don't do well and trying to compensate for that. And it's always been a lot of fun.
So how long have you been doing it now since you started?
So just under a year and a half.
Wow, that's it, huh? I thought it was going to be more than that.
No, I started in, it was 2021, like August. I think July or August of 2021. So a little over a year. I did have, like I said, a lot of foundational things that I was kind of able to adapt over, which kind of, sped up my development a little bit, I think, instead of having to, a lot of people who might come into this wouldn't have any basics of anything. So if they never did any jiu-jitsu or boxing or judo or kickboxing, MMA, if you never have done anything like that, you're kind of starting over. And it's a pretty complex sport because not only are you doing punching and kicking and throwing, you also have these weapons added in, and then the matchups of different weapons. So if you're using, like I use a one-handed axe and a punch shield, And if you're fighting, you could fight somebody who has the same weapons, or they could have a two-handed weapon, or they could have a one-handed sword and a shield. There's so many different variations of it that really kind of adds an extra layer of strategy to it.
How many matches have you been in?
Oh, so I would say duels at events. I probably have done, I'm gonna say 80 to 100 maybe.
Wow, really? In a year and a half?
Yeah.
There's that many going on all the time, huh?
So I travel a lot. Yeah, there's usually like in my area now in Pittsburgh, it isn't quite as like popular, and so like around Ohio is becoming more popular. Illinois not so much, but like Eastern PA, Virginia, Eastern PA, New Hampshire, pretty much all along the northern Atlantic coast there, the following is much bigger than it is around here. And so I travel out there quite a bit, usually like once a month. If there's a tournament out there, I try to go, and I've done pretty well.
How do you know what to bring as far as when you go? Do you know ahead of time who you're going to battle against then? Because I'm guessing somebody that really enjoys the sport like you do, you must have more than one suit of armor.
Yeah, I almost have 2 full sets. So when I go to an event, usually I'll sign, like if it's a tournament, I'll sign up for a category or multiple categories. The ones I usually sign up for are like longsword and sword and shield. And that's the one-on-one dueling for points. And then they also have the, pro fights or night fights. I've done some of those. And then I'll also do the melee. So you kind of know what category, before you go, you kind of know what category you're going to sign up for, what category you want to do. And sometimes you can play it by ear. So I've gone to tournaments where, you would do really well, let's say in longsword. And so you want to try and win that. So you kind of drop out of the other categories so you can concentrate on maybe winning, a medal or a first place or something like that.
How many first places have you gotten, you think?
So combined with longsword and sword and shield, I'm going to say probably like 18.
Man, that's pretty good.
18,
and now,
like
is there like a little purses, like a little bit of a payout, or do you get just like it's just an award type of thing, or what do you get when you win something like that? Just curious.
So sometimes the 80% of the time you're going to win, a pat on the back and a handshake, and a couple cool videos.
Yeah.
But I have won money a few times. And it's nothing like, it's enough to cover your gas and like, maybe your room or something like that. It's
right.
You're not going to win like thousands of dollars or something.
No, it's more for the love of the sport.
Right, exactly.
I know you probably have people on speed dial that you can call and Google, of course. I'm sure there's even can you buy stuff for this on Amazon also? Probably, right?
So the armor is generally custom made. There is some overlap, like, a 6 foot tall person, who's 220 pounds is probably going to be about the same size as somebody else, that's 6 foot tall, 220 pounds.
Right.
But generally most of the armor smiths that are popular are in Eastern Europe, and second to that probably South America. There are some in North America. They tend to be pretty busy, and so a lot of people just order from like Ukraine, which up until recently I know there's a war there, and so that kind of caused a lot of problems for a lot of people who have ordered. Believe it or not, there's a lot of armorers in Ukraine that make medieval armor, and the war there kind of just totally destroyed their industry for it, and but it is coming back, and that's generally where somebody would order it.
Now, I went to an old English fair, kind of like a Renaissance fair, over not too far from me. There's a town called Oregon, Illinois, and they have a castle, Stronghold Castle. I don't know if you've ever been there. It's a really neat place. But anyway, we just went to their English fair, and they had different vendors selling things like that. And that is that just more for the costume base of it at a place like that? Or so you would really have to order most the weapons and everything overseas then?
So there's like minimums for the type of metal and the thickness that's required in the sport. Because obviously, if you don't have weight classes, like I fought people that were, like I said, 6'6", 300 and some pounds, and they work out a lot. It's not like a guy that's been slugging a 6-pack and then he throws armor on and he comes out. No, it's like people that train to fight. And, when they're that big, swinging a weapon at you, you have to be sure that you have a reasonable level of safety, so that, you're not going to, be sucking through a straw the rest of your life. So they usually require certain thicknesses on the steel, and it has to be covering certain parts of your body. And generally speaking, like Amazon armor or eBay armor, that's mostly for like LARPing, or if you wanted to get dressed up for the Ren Fair or something like that.
Right. Okay. So for you got to use one. It was perfect size for you. But if you were to have to join this sport, what would you say the cost of a full suit of armor would cost to compete with somebody like you?
So I haven't checked prices because I know inflation's been kind of wild lately. I don't know how that's affected like, foreign orders and stuff. I haven't really looked into it, but I would say just a rough ballpark, including a helmet, full suit of armor, you're probably looking at around $1,800 to $2,400, something like that.
All right. Wow. Okay. But that's decent though. How did you choose your colors and what you did? Did you go off like your family crest or anything? Because like I told you, my grandma or my nana was from Bristol, England. So if I were to get into something like that, I'd want to represent something, you know what I mean? Like her family crest on the shield or something. Do you have any history behind yours now that you've been doing it for a little while?
So I'm like, I'm all about function over, like I'm so functional. It's like dry. Like I don't have anything. I did recently, start painting shields, but like it's only just because they were just flat black,
Right.
I don't have any like family crests or anything on my armor. Nothing like that. It's just if it functions well, that's really all that matters to me.
Maybe in the future, you never know.
Maybe I'm not a showy person.
I got you. I understand that. How much does your suit weigh? You say the one you have now that you use the most.
So mine, I believe the last time I checked, the full steel one with the helmet and all, I want to say it was about 74 pounds. I think 76 pounds, around there.
The whole thing, head to toe.
But yeah, that's everything. That's the legs and all. Yeah, legs, arms, everything. You
got to really practice with that thing the first time. I bet the next day, the first time you did it, the next day you're like, geez, I really love that, but I was not ready for that. I don't know, maybe not.
I think most people, like their first time, it's super like intense, So you're gonna like your first time in armor, you're gonna be able to go maybe like 30 seconds or a minute. But after you adjust, if assuming you keep at it and you work out and all that, you can go a ways. I think the longest I've personally fought, like I've gone to tournaments and worn my armor all day, and I've probably fought 20, 30 rounds, without too much trouble. So you do adjust to it, and pretty quickly too.
So I have to ask you, because this sport, I didn't YouTube it, but there's got to be things have gone wrong. How do they control? You know what I mean? Like I don't know. How do you control it from nothing going wrong? Is there certain areas you cannot aim for? What, you know what I mean? I mean, it's like MMA is one thing, and you could definitely get killed and injured from that too. But you're not using weapons. So I just was wondering, how do you regulate that?
So you're not allowed. A basic rundown of the rules is you're not allowed to strike somebody in the neck, the groin. And this will depend on the individual like style of fighting, as far as like the categories, like like I said, there's different weapons.
Right.
But so if you're fighting in like the melee, which is the the team based thing where it's like 5-on-5, where it's just like chaos, you're not allowed hitting people in the neck generally, behind the knees, feet, groin, no like chokeholds, no joint locks, and that's pretty much about it. There are some rules about vertical shots in spine, but in general, those are pretty much the rules. And what keeps you, like what keeps you from, like you said, they're swinging weapons. The steel does absorb a lot of the armor, and people are pretty good about. So at these events, you'll have, besides the referees, you'll also have people that are supporting the fighters, because wearing this armor is exhausting, and fighting in it's exhausting, and so you have people that give you water when you come out, things like that. But you also have people keeping an eye out for if your armor were to fail. So if you had a pauldron, like a shoulder piece, and let's say it fell off for whatever reason, you're wrestling some guy and it just pops off, they'll stop the fight for that, so that can be repaired. And then you'll have one or more referees, watching to make sure that people are following the rules, and that there's no nothing crazy going on, so that if somebody loses a piece of armor, things like that. But injuries do happen. It is a contact sport, and just like all the contact sports, people have had, axes have gone through helmets. People have gotten struck when their helmet fell off.
Oh yeah, just in motion, an accident.
Those things happen. But generally speaking, most of the injuries are like a lot of similar to football. So you'll have a lot of twisted ankle, twisted knee, that kind of thing.
Have you ever been injured yourself?
So I had a broken thumb and a broken hand. I had a sprained shoulder, and then bumps and bruises. Different little bumps and bruises.
Do you have to tell your insurance when you do this or no?
So you are covered at most of these events with the league basic insurance. But there are some events where, you sign a waiver and it's like, hey buddy, if you die, it's on you, and that some events are run like that. And that's kind of, the way it goes. But I don't think any insurance companies would be very happy if you were to send them video of this kind of thing.
I was talking to my fiance this morning and talking about questions we'd want to ask you. And that's what I said. I said, I wonder what insurance he has, what they say, some type of special coverage. What is your favorite venue that you've been to? And what's it like? Does it feel like you're in a movie Gladiator in a way or something when you're at a place like that? Does it feel kind of cool, I'm guessing, in that full suit of armor?
The one that does that, probably my favorite, funnest venue, and they're all good, and the people that organize these events they're awesome people. They really are, and it's like everybody does this for the love of it, So
right.
It's not like nobody's out there trying to. There might be a few, but generally speaking, nobody's out there trying to get rich. But I would say the coolest venue probably is going to be the Ohio Ren Fair with the Cincinnati Barbarians.
Okay.
Only because of the crowd sizes and the atmosphere there is a lot of fun. It's what they've been doing over there is really awesome as far as organizing events and building up the sport in their area and stuff. It's really cool to see.
I just reached out to one not too far from here. I should look it up again, but they never read my message, and I was hoping they were going to, because I was going to promote whatever event they had going on. They had, I forgot what event it was called. It was a name I didn't know, but they had an event going on, and I was hoping to promote it because this is so neat. I really hope you end up coming this way, Illinois, for something. When's your next match or your next event that you're going to?
So we also have events here in Pittsburgh. I run the armor program. It's called Broken Plow. It's like a HEMA school, like a Western martial arts school. So they do like longsword and boxing and wrestling and stuff like that.
Interesting.
And, we've begun to have events there, and we're looking at hopefully putting something together in the next couple of months. But my next event is the one there's an event in Eastern Pennsylvania called Battle at the Brewery 3. I'll probably be at that one. And then after that, I have, I'm probably going to fight. It's called the Arnold Invitational. Have you heard of that?
No. Oh yeah, maybe.
It's like the Arnold Sports Fest. I think it's up in your area.
Okay, it kind of rings a bell. Yeah.
So it's like Arnold Schwarzenegger has like his own branded sports weekend convention type of thing, I guess you could call it.
Okay.
So
okay.
There's like a lot of sports competitions, and one of them is armor combat. So that'll be up there coming up this year, and that'll be in March. And I'll probably go to Carolina Carnage, which is in South Carolina. That's an awesome event, well run. It's good stuff.
Do they ever do? I gotta look more into this sport. Do they ever do anything where it's almost like a battle royale where they have different weapons placed in different places, and you run out and you got to get and fight with what you got, or do they have something like that? Because that sounds fun to me too.
They do free for alls, which is basically you might have 5 or 10 people, and it's every man for themselves. And that's pretty much chaos. But you bring your weapons in. You know, you have to carry your weapons in, and if you lose your weapon, sometimes you're SOL, depending on the category. But yeah, that's free for alls are pretty wild. They generally have those, at a lot of places at the end. They'll just do it like for fun. It is really entertaining.
What kind is your favorite style? Would you rather do a free for all? Would you rather do one-on-ones? Would you rather do team? What's your favorite style?
My problem is I like all of the categories. So I like night fighting, I like longsword dueling, I like melee, I like all of it.
Right.
And so it's kind of hard to decide, and it's hard to train for all of it, because the one-on-one thing is almost like its own sport. So the tactics and the things you practice, so if you were going to do a lot of night fights or pro fights, you would practice a lot of grappling, striking, like punching, kicking, hitting with weapons and things like that. Whereas if you were mainly a melee fighter, you would probably concentrate less on those things and more on, teamwork and, working together as a group, because that's more important, in the team stuff. So it totally depends. And then if you do longsword duels, it's a totally different thing completely, because then you don't do much striking at all, with your feet or your hands, or grappling. So you tend to just practice using a sword. So each one is really distinct, and they're almost like, the categories are almost like their own sports.
I could see how, because I know I have my FOI card to get a gun, and I know how it feels when you get a good bat or a good knife. I know going into a store or something that sells swords must be really hard, because being able to touch so many different things and trying to figure out what exactly fits you, you know what I mean? I would almost want to try them all first, you know what I'm saying, just to get a feel on what really fits your body and your stamina, and then what does good for you, because that looks a lot harder than it really, it's a lot harder than it really looks, I don't know, it looks hard to me.
So I've ordered and that's what kind of stinks, because a lot of this stuff, you have to special order, or not always, but when it comes to swords anyways, if you want a good sword for this sport, you probably have to special order it. And the problem is you don't really know the balance or what it feels like until it shows up at your door after you've paid for it, 3 months later. And so it's kind of like you're stuck with whatever you get. And I have gotten burned before, ordering a sword from somebody. And, it turns out that when the sword gets there, it's just not very good,
Damn.
And it just kind of stinks.
Oh, a lot.
I wish.
Yeah.
I wish you could go those nighttime infomercials with the dragon knives. It'll be 10 knives for $4, those kind of things. Yeah. I wish you could go and, they sold things like that. But, that's all it's not really, you can't use it in actual fighting.
What do you have kids, correct?
Yes, I do. I have 3 kids. I have 2 boys and a girl.
What do they think of it? Do they want to join too? Are they going to do it also?
So my son, who is my one son is my middle child. He likes it. He likes watching it. I try to talk him, he's getting a little older, so he's and probably he'll in a couple years he would be old enough to do it. And but he likes watching it and things like that. The other ones, not so much. I mean, my daughter's pretty much exactly what you'd expect. When are we going to be done? I want to go play Minecraft.
Darn. Now, I'm guessing these things you go to, is it like an event for almost kind of like a Renaissance fair then too? I'm guessing people go and just dress in the garb and watch also, or what's it like?
So it's pretty similar to any other contact sport, event. So nobody really dresses up. It's pretty much just fighting. It's
Just going to watch it.
Yeah, people just go to watch it.
It'd be neat if Renaissance Fairs could book people like you, and you know what I mean, like have you guys do it there, because it'd be like part of it. You know what I'm saying? Like to see that over there at that castle I just went to would have been really badass. To see a couple of people for real fighting out in the middle with a real castle in the background. Come on, of course that'd be really badass.
Yeah, it would be. It's pretty awesome. Like anywhere really. It's something that like we recently did an event in Pittsburgh, down in an area called the Waterfront, and it's like a busy shopping area in Pittsburgh. And so there was a tournament going on, and they allowed us to do like cage fights there, because they had an MMA cage set up.
Cool.
And, the number of the eyeballs that always stop to watch, or the crowd size that always people just show up and watch it. And it's really neat that people take such an interest in it. You'll have like there's times where I've looked out into a crowd and it's just like, it just seems like the crowd goes on forever, and it's really, really neat.
Well, that's really cool, and I really appreciate your time explaining this. Again, this is Chris Sander, who does you said, what's it called again? You said armored what?
Armored combat is what most people in
Right.
sport call it.
Okay. Medieval MMA or armored combat, and what he does. Such an interesting thing, and I don't know if I would do it. I do want to try in a suit just to see what it's like to walk around in one, to get the feeling of what it would be like in battle back in the day like that. I don't even know if I got to go through the motions. I feel like my shoulders are so bad as it is. I feel like just putting the suit on would be a workout.
It's really uncomfortable usually.
But I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
Well, everybody, that was a really dope interview. I really enjoyed this one as well. And I already have some more questions for the guy, so I can't wait to talk to him again. I am already planning a part 2. So stay tuned. I asked him for a flyer or poster from an event that he's going to do or has done. So hopefully I get one of them, because I want to put it in our studio. All right, do me a gigantic favor for our family. Go on Facebook. We're on there, Catching Up with Carter and Fam. That's Catching with no G, by the way, if you don't know that already. And the other thing is Instagram, Catching Up with Carter and Fam on there. We also have Radar the Pit Mix, which is one of our 2 dogs. We have Life with Jack. We have Rochelle Railroad Fan and Rochelle Train Graffiti, and a couple other ones. So like all those, comment some of those, and of course subscribe to our YouTube channel and like it, share, all those other things you got to do for us. Please help us out a little bit. And to also add a note on, if you have any topic that you think people should know about or that you want to talk about with me, we can do it via the phone or in person if you don't live far from here, Rochelle, Illinois, that is. So if you're interested, please email us at catchinupwithcarter@gmail.com. catchinupwithcarter@gmail.com. Catchin, CATCHIN, up, UPWITH, Carter, CARTER, @gmail.com. So no G in the Catchin. So please do that. And if you have an Airbnb that you own that you'd like to have us there to do a review, if you don't know already, we've done 9 and we've done 10, but the video is almost done getting produced for us, and we'll be having it as well. So if you have an Airbnb and you want us to do a review, let us know. Email the same thing, catchinupwithcarter@gmail.com. Thank you so much for your time. I can't wait to talk to you again. Take care and stay safe.
Thank you for spending an hour of your time with us. Now will you do yourself a favor? Check us out on Catching Up with Carter and Fam Show. Do yourself another favor and follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Insta. Our dog's also up there, so you'll be doing yourself a third favor. And we'll see you next week. Toodles!